Belina Show, Wednesday, final hour. And I'm still adjusting to the new world we live in because for 14 years, there was no Wednesday Louie Belina Show at 1. There was no Friday Louie Belina Show at 1. Not happening. It was Studio 12 Live, but end of July, Studio 12 Live ended. Matt, Will, Andrew Monaco was on there, and memories. Isn't that a Barbra Streisand song? Probably a million people sang it. So now on the Louie Belina Show, Wednesdays. Next week, I'm not ready to announce, but Wednesdays at 1, we're going to have a familiar name. I can't announce it yet. Can't do it. No, hold back. Now, 1:35, every other week, Bubba Bush, BVMMA and Fitness, friend of yours, friend of mine, friend of our community. Every other week, Alan Ward, Brigadoon Brewery. Today, 1:35 on the D4 Land Services hotline, Bubba Bush. He is a man of service and just a fascinating dude. He was a champion in the Legacy Fight promotion, which at the time was the number 2. UFC was 1, Legacy was 2. Bubba was a champion, went on to fight in the UFC. And Bubba's just one of those special, awesome dudes. D4 Land Services, they fix land up, they clear land, excavate land. It's in the title. They're D4 Land Services, and you can go to their website, find out everything they do at d4landservices.com. d4landservices.com. Want to kick things off. Astros Rangers. So yesterday, the story was owner Jim Crane flew to New York, and he had a closed-door meeting with Espada. I was fascinated by that because it just sounded ominous. And it's like, I don't know what other meeting they would have with him, because if you're the owner and you're meeting with your manager, would the door be open anyway? Like, closed-door meeting, dun, dun, dun. Are they going to have open-door meetings? Was it really that serious? Was it a clarification? Because I really dug deep into it. It was so weird the way it was reported and everything. There was an implication that, so the Astros played Sunday, off day, travel day, Monday, and that Crane was so busy with Brown, he never talked to Espada, even though the original stories were that they talked with Espada, gave him the option to stay or go, but he's fired at the end of the year. That was the original kind of story on this. And it was now kind of being shaped that Crane kind of forgot to talk to him, and that's why he flew to New York and they had a closed-door meeting. Now, after the closed-door meeting, Jim Crane kind of did a Q&A. It appears that maybe the original version of Espada option A isn't true, that Espada was always going to be to the end of the year and evaluated then. It's just such a moving target concept conversation. It's a little befuddling and kind of appropriate for the Jim Crane stewardship, to be fair. If someone, and Joe Sheehan next Tuesday joins us, I'm going to, the number one thing, he has to explain the value of an Espada. I haven't figured out his pluses. He has some minuses. I know he's not the worst, but I know there's no plus. That's just the truth of it. He doesn't do. I don't know how much he hurts, but he doesn't do. We have enough data, sample sizes. We'll get back to the Jim Crane Q&A. He would have made a politician proud in how nothing he said. And the questions were actually fantastic. They asked the hard questions, and he just had nothing to say. What about the games themselves? Astros are in New York all week long. 3 with the Yankees, 3 with the Mets. And last night, 9-7. The Astros are starting Pecco. They know he's not ready, but it's kind of irrelevant because they don't have anyone. 4 1/3, 5 earned. Grim. Astros down 6-5, end of 7. Grim. Rally cap. 3 in the 8th, 1 in the 9th, 9-7 final. 14 hits, 9 runs. Astros win, and kind of in reverse over the horrific weekend. they had against the A's. Instead of losing from ahead, they rallied from behind with 4 runs in the 8th and 9th to win 9-7. Pena, yard is 15th. Yanier Diaz, 3 for 4, 3 ribeyes, 2 home runs. And, they traded for Varsho Toronto. He went 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs. Average is up to 233. I'll just say it appears he's warming up to a degree. Last night, even after the start by Pecco, Astros scored 3 in the 8th. Abreu blows the save in the bottom of the 8th, and you're just sitting there going, okay, we done. We done. Just being honest here. But the Astros rally with the run in the 9th. Hader, 19th save. Perfecto 9th. No runs, no hits, struck out 1. He's now 19 for 19 with about a .8 ERA in save situations. I'll just say, considering the turmoil, everything else, to rally and have Brian Abreu just suck the life out of the team, he turned the corner. I'm not going to hit the red button on him, but man, that was so not needed. I think it's what the team needed, the players needed. Astros win game 1 against the Yankees. And the Astros don't play the Cardinals anymore, so I don't get the satisfaction and joy of Astros beating the Cards. So, other than beating the Texas Rangers, when the Astros beat the Yankees, Lou is happy. Because listening to Brian Cashman complain for how many years now about the Astros cheating the Yankees out of a World Series title, the Astros cheating the Yankees out of their dynasty, Cashman blaming the Astros for global warming and world poverty, I just hate the Yankees. And it's not because they're the Yankees. There's some people that hate the Yankees because they've been told to. No, if Brian Cashman ever leaves, I might go back to neutral to them. But him blaming the Astros for lepers, for all that woes known to mankind, childhood poverty, he blames the Astros for everything. Excuse. Astros win. Astros win. What if I share with you a couple of statisticals of how bad is the Astros pitching really? Because Lou tells you they're bad, and you're like, Lou, you're whining. To an extent, but it's truthful whining. Today, I think it was ESPN.com. Oh, no. Today, everybody pooped all over the AL West. I saw it at CBSSports.com. I saw it at ESPN.com. It's like they all came together and they said, we've been listening to the Louie Bellina Show podcast and Joe Sheehan with them, and they're right. The AL West isn't just bad. They are historical. Because Joe and I have been talking, we talk every Tuesday. We've been talking about it for a month. Everyone else this week has decided, deep summer. How much can we talk about Yankees, Red Sox, and even Dodgers? So Tuesday, Wednesday, wherever you look, the narrative in MLB, the West is not just bad. How bad are they? So ESPN.com tackles, how bad is the West? Their headline was hysterical. So here's your statisticals for the Astros. Their rotation is 28th in the majors with a 5.19 ERA, and the rotation is on pace for the lowest WAR by a Houston rotation in franchise history. I don't feel like you need more, but I do have some more of how bad this pitching staff is. But the rotation is 28 out of 30, 5.19, on pace for the lowest WAR by a Houston rotation in franchise history. You have Hunter Brown. You've got Lambeau. You had Spencer Arrighetti be the player of the month. So before you think it's total dark, right? Before you do. But yet, 28th with ERA, lowest WAR ever. And there's actually a couple of guys that can pitch. But the bad has been so horrific. Lowest WAR by a Houston rotation in franchise history. Now, I told you I got another statistical of how bad it is. Astros starters are averaging 4.54 walks per inning. It would be the most for a starting rotation, and this is beautiful. This is so delicious, okay? The Astros starters are averaging 4.54 walks per inning. It would be the most for a starting rotation since the 1987. That's how far back you have to go to find another starting rotation this bad at walking players. But the 1987 Texas Rangers. Yep. That was the last team that had a starting rotation this skankadelic at walking people. And that 1987 Rangers walked 4.94. So the Astros will be the worst since, but you still can't be as bad as that Ranger team was. Bobby Witt walked 140 batters in 143 innings to lead the Ranger horrificness. So, am I giving you the perspective to realize it's not just me? This will be the worst Astros starting rotation WAR in franchise history. And they've walked the most per nine since 1987 of any rotation. They bad. They did this whole breakdown of how they're 66-66 with a half-game lead in the West. How Yordan Alvarez, Triple Crown candidate and the AL MVP favorite, and Josh Hader. And that's it. It kind of stops there. There's others that have contributed, had moments, but that's it. Yordan, Hader. You have the best offensive player in the American League and the best closer. And in the AL West, that's enough. Texas Rangers lost yesterday, 11-7. Jacob deGrom, 4.21. If you weren't Jacob deGrom, you'd be having a pretty number 3, number 4 starter year, and life wouldn't be that bad. He went 3 2/3 and gave up 8. He just hasn't had a Jacob deGrom year. And that's a year that, it's a year that Nathan Eovaldi hasn't had a Nathan Eovaldi year. And it's a year that the Rangers offense, which was the number one concern, well, we're heading down the stretch, and it's not a concern. It's just bad. We're not concerned. We know they're not good. Little home run derby for the Rangers. Look, they score 7 runs, and they're supposed to have a 100% win rate with their pitching staff, but deGrom gave up 8 and 3 2/3. Only got a chance to catch one Astros game this year. Went with Ryan Starr, host Chip Howard Sports Talk Fridays here on The Zone. He's also one of the best karaoke people I know. And that was a deGrom game. I'm not going to break down the analytics of his pitching motion because, well, I don't do that. That's not my strength. But you could just tell he's not the Jacob deGrom. He's Jacob deGrom. He's not the Jacob deGrom. But I mentioned the Rangers went home run derby. Jansen's 4th, Berger's 23rd, Foskew's 9th. So, Astros win, Rangers lose. They flippity-floppity. Astros with a half-game lead on the Rangers. Astros with a 1-game win streak. Woo! They are now projected, Sportsline, to win 80.8, 81. Rangers 79.9, 80. So a 500 record to win the AL West, which I will sign on the dotted line right now. Yes, please. Rangers are a game back of Cleveland in the AL West wild card. I think if you're 3 back, you might be trying to fight past and over and through too many teams. Because if you take a look at the wild card, Cleveland's in the 3rd spot. Yankees, Boston, done. They're taking 1-2. They've got an 8 and a 6.5 game lead. And with the mediocrity of the rest, I think the wild card's 1-2. That book those 2 slots. It's the 3rd wild card slot. Wild card slot. That's the shank fight in the American League. Cleveland, Texas, and it's A&M. Astros. So you can say Texas / Houston, Cleveland, Baltimore's 2.5 back, Seattle 3, Minnesota 3, Toronto 3. But that 3 feels really heavy. Anybody can go into September and okay. And if they pull a 20-10, they win it. But barring that kind of run, which none of these teams seem capable of, 3 feels heavy back. So if I'm doing an AL wildcard pool, give me Cleveland, Texas, Houston, Baltimore. No, and then maybe someone in the 3 pool can make a run. Before we jump out of the MLB universe, which we can't, we'll come back and we'll do more MLB mixed in with some Texans and Cowboys too. We're doing our state of Texas, man. But the Chicago Cubs, America's team, the beloved Cubbies, God bless America, they set a franchise record last night. They scored 30 unanswered runs, and it wasn't in one game, but they scored 30 unanswered runs over 3 games. And the previous record had been 29 over a 3-game stretch, and that happened back in 1969. So, franchise record, I do want to be clear. Cubs started the streak on Sunday. They fell behind 2-0, and they won 19-2 Sunday against the Mariners. Then they blanked the D-backs 7-0 on Monday, and then went up 4-0 Tuesday. So they scored 30 straight unanswered runs between Sunday to last night. Then, Diamondbacks scored. So franchise record, 30 straight unanswered runs. I'll be back. A little more Astros, but then Texans and Cowboys. That's the schedule ahead here on the Louie Bellina Show, presented by CC Electric. Built on faith, family, and community. They have military and veteran discounts. That is CC Electric. This is the Louie Bellina Show. I'm sticking on this Wednesday thing on the zone.
This is your home for Aggie football, home, road, or bowl. The Zone 1150 AM and 93.7 FM.
It is the Louie Bellina Show. Rolling. No. Not going to do Limp Bizkit. Rolling along on a Wednesday. It is the Louie Bellina Show inside the Charles Schwab studio. We're just kind of state of Texas is where we're at. Astros, Rangers. We'll jump into Texans, Cowboys shortly. I had mentioned the Jim Crane Q&A. He was asked what led to the decision to part ways with Dana Brown. His answers are so nothing burgers. It's because the questions are great. What led to? There's no good time. I think just out of respect for Dana, we thought it was time to give him a little space and regroup. That's not space and regroup when you fire someone, bro. That's game over. We thought it was time to give him a little space and regroup, so they fired him. I thought that was a very odd answer. Has there been any decision made on beyond the season for Joe? Not yet. So all the early reports that Joe was given the choice to leave or stay, no. I mean, he was asked, any decision beyond the year? Not yet. Quick clarification. He was asked about the performance on the homestand and that Sunday game. Up 6-0 and lose 7-6. And he said, did that play a part? Nope. That didn't have anything to do with it. So not just no, but didn't have anything to do with it. I don't know if I buy it, but that's his public stance. He was asked outright if Jeff Bagwell is a candidate to become the full-time GM. Quote, we didn't have any candidate at this point. We haven't even started looking. Jeff's in the same role he's always been. He's a senior advisor, and he works with the assistant GMs and myself and assists when necessary. Brad Osmus, that's where I'm putting my money. I've never Vegas gambled on the next GM of any team franchise. Brad Osmus money. He was asked, again, the questions were awesome. As you look at your philosophies and how you've run the team the last 9 years or so, and as you see baseball going in the direction it's going, do you think you can continue to run it as you've run it in terms of not wanting to go crazy in free agency, not wanting to give long-term deals? Do you think that's still a viable path for this team to keep its window open? All you need to know is the first sentence. I think you're watching some pretty good teams that don't have big payrolls. That's certainly something we'll study very hard. It's a true statement, but Dodgers. I've said before, the problem is where they've spent their money, and it's bad for the Astros. And the expectations they have. They've just signed bad contracts. He was asked about his last 3 GMs have never been ahead of baseball operations before. They actually haven't made bad hires. Click was brilliant, but that's a story that had nothing to do with baseball. That seemed to be more personal. And then this one is probably the biggest storyline because others have jumped on this. It seems like for years the Astros were always a step ahead. Do you feel like that is still a place where you're ahead of the industry? Quote, I think once you came up with something new like the shift, we were heavy on the shift, then everybody does the shift, and then they eliminate the shift. I think everyone is kind of caught up on some things, but there's certainly some things we're going to do some study on. Yeah. So his answer is we'll take a look at it. But the Astros at the start of the dynasty, Lunel, were revolutionary. At one point, and for multiple years, they were voted the number one analytical organization in all of North America. It wasn't an MLB thing, but they were the number one analytical organization. And they used this analytical approach for every decision, everything. It wasn't just the big roster. It's how they did the minors. All decisions were computerized almost. And it's how they built the dynasty. Jeff Lunel was the head of it. And, he got axed with the whole cheating scandal. They kept all his minions and they kept that approach, but Crane kind of destroyed that because it took credit away from him when people thought it was just an automated process. So let's just say they don't use that as much. By the way, I wanted to find the headline. I remember I told you how everybody... Quote, it's a herd of turtles in the AL West and the Astros aren't innovators anymore. Yeah, that's the thing. They're using an owner who thinks he knows, getting consulted by someone who doesn't have the XP, and their decisions come up as more random than thoughtful for a team that was the number one analytical organization. And they're not innovators anymore. I want to move on. I do. How many people know what the NFL rivalry uniforms are at all? It's a new thing they do where they pick one AFC, one NFC division, and you get to pick, it's just another way to do alternate uniforms, but you pick a rivalry game and you designate a uniform for that week when you're at home. Because like the Colts and the Texans, AFC South. So when the Colts host the Texans, they have a rivalry uniform. And when the Texans host the Colts, was that week 11, I think? Yep, it is. They have a rivalry uniform. And the first batch, I believe, is the AFC batch. No. AFC South, NFC North are the two divisions. So we got to see a lot of all, to be fair. I'm going to tell you something. The Houston Texans rivalry uniforms are all the talk of the first batch that was released. They've stolen all the thunder. The Houston Texans uniform, it's simple. Raise your hand if you remember the Houston Oilers. Because it's straight up, take the Texans like, if you were to reimagine the Houston Texans as the Houston Oilers and keeping the bull, keeping them Texans oriented, this is what it would look like. And it is awesome. It is spectacular. Like, I'm not a Texans fan. I'm not anti-Texans. I have no beef with the Houston Texans at all. Been to some Texans game. It's a great time. But this Texans rivalry, the helmet is awesome. The uniform is awesome. I'd take a jersey hanging up in my office. Not going to pay for it. Their rivalry uniform, it's been all the talk. People that have nothing to do with the Houston Texans want a jersey. They're going to make $1 billion on jersey and merch sales alone. And all it is direct, straight up Houston Oiler, I say inspired. It's Houston Oilers done Texan style. You got that blue. It is beautiful. I give credit where it's due. A lot of the other ones are, I don't even know how to explain it. I don't understand how they're playing to any rivalry or just anything. And I don't know. They're basic. I'm not going to say they're ugly or just uninspired. They're very basic. Houston Texans, you're champions of rivalry uniforms. They're awesome. I want them desperately. And the helmet, that's a collector's item. Houston. So you have the Tennessee Titans, who do everything Houston Oilers rift, and the Houston Texans that do anything Houston Oilers rift. So just a very basic concept. How incredible was the Houston Oilers look that you have two teams that just go to it anytime they need to? That's their throwback. That's their, that's their alternates. You have two NFL franchises that just go Houston Oilers when they need to sell merch. That's a thought. 979-693-1150. You can light up the inbox, questions, comments, opinions. 979-693-1150. Cardinal John texted and said, "Hey, Lou, what's up, man? Cards and Stros played this year, remember?" Nope. Blocked it out. Just kidding. Love the show. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you texting. Cards and Stros. Nope. I have no recollection at all. I have blocked it out, blacked it out. J84. Oh, this is of Tony. Tony, I used to live and breathe college football. Could hardly sleep the night before a game. Now, screw them all. I still watch, but whatever. Sorry, so dull. Jay, for me, it's kind of like two attitudes of existence. I don't even know if that's the right phraseology, to be fair. The off seasons are hard. In the olden days, when college football was in black and white, in the olden days, you had signing day in February, you had fall camp, and then you had like the 7-on-7s, and then the individual schools had camps. That rhythm was very sustainable. There are still down periods. But the off seasons now in college football tend to involve super conference realignment, lawsuits. It involves the underbelly. And that's been for a while. And that's the part for me that I don't like. Once we get in season, I don't think we talk about NFL players trying to go pro. Because no team has time to deal with this. Because you've got an opponent Saturday, even if it's Missouri State, School of the Mimes, Gumby Tech. The college football season is kind of undefeated. That's the reason why they're still bidding insane amounts of money, and the rights fees are going up, and the viewership numbers are higher than ever. Attendance is going back. I mean, there's a reason why all that is true. But the off seasons are disgusting to a degree. That's why here on the Louie Bellina Show, that we remember that sports is entertainment. We talk, but we remember to have fun. We do. Or why are we doing this at all, to be fair with you? I guess I could treat it as life or death, but it's not, so I can't. But that, to me, maybe the closest thing to how you feel, Jay. It's the off seasons that are becoming really hard. We got to talk about judges, jurisdictions, court orders. We got to talk about eighth-year players saying they have a right to a ninth year with a straight face. Really? Really? And the answer is, really? Nah, man, that's never going to be cool to me. That's just a universe that I just don't want to stray into. But you got to. Even with the super conference realignment, where Greg Sankey in the SEC office shanks A&M because they accept Texas without ever telling A&M, so A&M can't weigh in on it or do anything. I mean, it's all just disgusting to me. I need a break. Whew. I need to wash. It's the Louie Bellina Show inside the Charles Schwab studio. It's the Louie Bellina Show, presented by CC Electric on the Zone, 1150 AM and 93.7 FM.
Listen to the Houston Astros on the Zone, thanks to Kelly Bird Dozier.